It's 1 o'clock, so I'll call the Facilities Committee meeting to order. There's no public comment today, so let me lead us in a word of prayer, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and Father, during this time, we just pray that you would heal our country, Father. Help each one of us to love one another and treat each other as we'd like to be treated. Father, we know that there's a lot of issues out there and a lot of things we need to work our way through, but we have a wonderful country. We have wonderful people in it. We live in a wonderful community, and we just pray for all of our leaders, from our president on down, that they would seek you and that they would work out the solutions so that people can start being more civil toward one another. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to live in this country and in this community. Now we ask your blessings on this meeting and just give us guidance as we go about the business for the JWSC. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The first item on the agenda is the minutes for approval is the minutes from the May 20th, 2020 Facilities Committee meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is infrastructure dedication pump station 4062. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. This is a parcel or property dedication for pump station 4062. It's just a transfer of ownership of the parcel to the Joint Water and Sewer Commission to clean up that issue. So it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. The property owner of record was Strickers Homes, and they do wish to transfer that to us and have provided that quick claim. Happy to answer any questions.
For everybody's information, there's several pump stations that we've never gotten title to. How many are there still remaining, Todd? Do you know about?
We've got 74 that have been put on the list to be dedicated, and I believe we've got about 13 of those knocked off the list so far.
So for one reason or other, they never got dedicated to the Joint Water and Sewer Commission or the county or the city of Brunswick when they were first put in, even though we were operating them.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that the Facilities Committee recommend to the full commission review and approve the documents supporting the transfer and ownership for the parcel located at 310 Crispin Boulevard, also known as Pump Station 4062 for public ownership, operation, and maintenance.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Next item is Pump Station 4003 contract award. Burrs?
Yes, sir. This is the contract award for the SPLOST project for the city of Brunswick. Pump Station 4003 is located on K Street. That station was built in the 60s and is in need of some significant rehab. As part of this project, we'll be installing a new wet well, new pumps, an odor control system, and some small sections of gravity to relocate the influent point. We got 5 bids on the project, and the low bid was Petticoat Smith Civil Contractors out of Jacksonville at $1.99 million. That is under the budget in the SPLOST project. Originally when this project was scoped, we were discussing installing gravity sewer down Reynolds Street to eliminate this pump station. We've spoken with some local contractors, and we were told that to complete the project in that way would have cost us anywhere from $6 to $10 million and likely would have taken at least 2 years to complete. So by doing it this way, we've saved a substantial amount of money, and this project is, I think it's 240 days on the construction time for this project. So we're requesting approval for that. Now, the bids were a little spaced out. The main difference in the bids, if you look at the back on the bid tab, provided by the consultant was with the cost of installing the wet well. However, we have contacted Petticoat Smith, and they have assured us that their numbers are good and they are ready to move forward.
I do have a question. Have we used this firm before?
We have not used Petticoat Schmidt before. We have talked with some of our consultants that have used them on their projects, and they said that they would be happy to recommend them for the work.
Oh, good.
So, we do have a letter of recommendation from our consulting engineer, Chris Burke at Hussey Gay Bell, recommending award to Petticoat Schmidt.
The alternate bid item, explain that to us, Andrew.
Yes, sir. As part of the odor control system we were putting in, we spec'd a particular brand of odor control system known as BioRim. We allowed an alternate bid item for BioAir. These systems are essentially the exact same minus the manufacturer. So when we got those prices, and essentially they came back at the exact same price, within a couple $1,000s of each other. The BioRim being the base bid and it actually being $2,000 cheaper, we're recommending the base bid amount here and not the alternate. So moving forward with that BioRim technology. It is a biological treatment scenario to eliminate odors from the vapor phase.
And this is a lump sum contract with just the allowances, the last two items is allowances, right?
Yes, sir. There's some minimum stuff on the filling the wet well and on the 55 feet of sewer, but the vast majority of it is indeed lump sum. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion the Facilities Committee recommend awarding the contract for Lift Station 4003 upgrades in the 2016 SPLOST project number 703 to Petticoat Smith Civil Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $1,998,690.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion second, all in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries 3-0. Next item is the Coastal Club Revised Comprehensive Agreement. Mr. Dominy?
Thank you, Chairman. You have before you again today the Coastal Club Apartments Amended and Restated Comprehensive Agreement. This is the same thing that was presented in May. And the JWSC at that time requested further revisions to the proposed amendment. Thereafter, we had a small committee of 3 commissioners and staff met with the developers' representatives to discuss the alternatives. And after that meeting, we have revised the agreement to be in accordance with the recommendations from that committee. Primarily, and I'll just go through the changes in this, the scope of the projects have changed slightly. I'll let y'all explain those. That was way over my head during the meeting. But we revised that. There's no longer including a wet well. I know I got that part. Regarding transferability of the accredited amount, that is included in here. It allows the transfer of the credited amount to another company owned by the developer. That ability to transfer or sign the credit will expire in 3 years from the date that they receive the credit, though. We also included in here liquidated damages and a schedule for those liquidated damages, and any liquidated damages would come off of that credited amount, and any excess, if there is any, would be payable by the developer. The liquidated damages are $2,500 per day. Another change is projects 1 and 2 must be completed prior to the JWSC approving any certificates of occupancy for the development. The developer has to submit all documents needed to complete the bid package for project 3 by September 1st, 2020, and they have to achieve substantial completion of project 3 before February 1st or 6 months after the selection of the contractor. So the JWSC is going to bid project 3 and will award the contract, and then the developer will do the project.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Facilities Committee forward the amended and restated comprehensive agreement with Hill Point Residential LLC to the full commission with recommendation for approval.
I'll second. I have a question. Could you define substantially complete?
Yes, sir, it's in here.
Yeah,
It's actually,
Essentially, substantially complete is the ability to actually pump the water necessary. There may be site dressing issues or painting or something that needs to be done above ground, but the water will flow as designed.
all right, yeah, that's good definition, thank you.
yeah, the definition in here is, shall be defined as the time at which the project has progressed to the point where the project is sufficiently complete in accordance with the final engineering plan so that the project can be utilized for the purposes for which it was intended.
Let's talk about the amended and restated comprehensive agreement. Where does it go into what the new agreement is? What the scope is? It says, is it just under responsibilities?
Yes, sir. The
Number
scope,
3, yes, sir.
the scope's on page 4, yes, sir.
Now, tell us what the developer's gonna be paying for without us being involved, and then what the developer's gonna be paying for that we're handling. Explain those items to us.
Yes, sir. Project 1 is they're currently underway with that, installing, I think they're doing a PVC force main out there right now, to pump station 4059, which is the upstream station directly across from the development.
That's under construction now.
That is under construction now, yes, sir. Downstream, Project 2 at 4056, they will be installing new pumps and panels in order to handle the flow capacity necessary.
And they've
And-
ordered those pumps?
They have not ordered those pumps yet, I do not believe.
I thought they had.
Maybe they have. We have it. We'll check on that.
We haven't received submittals on those yet.
But 59, Project 3, that'll be bid out, originally was going to be installation of a new wet well. Instead of doing the new wet well, we're going to put in larger pumps capable of handling that flow instead of doing the flow attenuation in the wet well.
So we'll have a separate contractor doing that.
It will be bid out per our standards, then whoever is the low responsible bidder, they will manage the project with that bidder.
But 4056, 4059, that's been, 4056 is the big one, the downstream.
Downstream, yes, sir.
They'll be putting that in. or
They'll
they
be putting all that in, yes, sir.
Have a contract to do it.
Yes, sir. I suspect it'll be the same contractor who's putting in the force main now.
So project 3 will be what we will be taking bids for, and then they will be paying the contractor.
They will be paying the contractor and managing the construction. We will have the ability, as in all of our projects, to provide inspection services, but they will be managing the contract and doing all the payments there.
And who's buying the pumps for that? I mean, are they pre-purchasing those pumps, so they'll
The-
already be purchased?
The contractor will be purchasing everything.
And you're comfortable they're gonna complete it on time?
If they do not have it bid on time, I think that number will get increased quickly enough that they'll get it done in a hurry.
All right. Are there any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. We'll move to the discussion portion of the agenda, asset management update. Mr. Zettler?
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Coming in today for our quarterly checkup on the progress with the asset management program that was initiated about a year ago. Some of the big things that we have gotten done, you have a little handout that'll show a couple of the things that we've been focusing on lately. The biggest thing that we've gotten done is that all of our 100% of our water distribution mains, gravity mains in the sewer system, force mains in the sewer systems have all been analyzed, and they've all received a consequence of failure grade. And about 70% of them to this point have received a probability of failure grade. We use those grades to score which assets, as far as pipe and whatnot, what priority they should be if we go to replace them, or what is the possibility of failure for them. The higher ones are obviously more important. And we will have some, I have documents, if anybody would like to review them, that goes over and shows in detail the process that we went through and the calculations that were taken into place. But just a quick snapshot of all the work that was involved in that. That was over 8,000 gravity mains, 1,500 force mains, 13,000 water mains, 186 pump stations, 12 wells, and 163 pump stations were all graded upon the criteria that was either decided on by NASCO scoring or by a committee that we had last year, a group of people that decided on a grading criteria for consequence of failure based on, you know, population affected, businesses affected, and things of that sort. So a lot of thought went into the grading process. So we're pretty proud to have all of that graded to this point, or as best as we can, especially with the master plan update coming up soon. So that was one of the big things that we got accomplished in the past quarter. So a priority for the program was to ensure that wastewater treatment and system pumping and maintenance departments had a better vertical hierarchy in our asset management program. The point of that was so that we could pull data and have a more accurate representation of what's going on in our system. The images that are included in your little handout, you'll see two pie charts, and right now this is a focus on the wastewater treatment plant. You can see the 2019 to 2020 year, we had 427 repair and maintenance work orders, which means that was a reactive work order. They went out, they had to fix the system, they did not plan the work, and we had 169 preventative maintenance, which is planned work. Already to date this year, we see a significant improvement, about a 22% decrease in reactive maintenance. We have 147 preventative maintenance tasks that are work orders that have been taken out versus 107 preventative maintenance. So I thought this was just a good snapshot for us to look at and see that the asset management program, even though it's in its infancy right now, is providing a positive effect on the organization as a whole. Not every department or every division looks this good so far, and we've got to invest more time in that. But we do see that getting these PMs in place, we're spending less money trying to fix things, and we're spending less money because we're just keeping things working right. Instead of attacking problems as they occur, we're getting out ahead of it, which is a significant money saver when it comes to especially things like the wastewater treatment plant.
Could I ask a question? Before, obviously, I'm newer, so I'm the rookie here. So before you had this system in place, how did you determine which was preventive and reactive? I mean, was it?
Well, so there were some things that, the biggest thing, a lot of it wasn't logged in any quantifiable way. There were PMs, and the operators understood what they were supposed to do at certain places. They'd go out, they'd do their checks. They may not necessarily have been as in-depth as they should have been, or as we want them to be, but preventative maintenance was being done, but not to the level of what you want to see. A lot of stuff was run to failure, and that's, I mean, when it comes to especially a public entity, that's just not something that we can handle. So depending on which division it was in, you know, they had PMs in place. Were they executing those PMs on a regular basis? Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. Were they looking at things before they happened? Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. So before this, like I said, the pie charts here just show the short change around of when we log our information in our program called CityWorks, it's either put under preventative maintenance or system maintenance and repair. And that's really that's kind of our key performance indicator right now as to how the program is changing things, because the less work we see being reactive, the better we're doing at keeping our stuff running and keeping it working for the community.
So you're actually taking some concrete information and really almost creating like a culture change in the operations of the
Yes, sir.
utility.
That is one of our big goals with this is to facilitate that change that needs to happen. I mean, you know, water and wastewater, every place that I've worked has always been that one thing that nobody really wants. It's running, it's okay, so we don't need to worry about it. But it also is a it can be a huge drain if you're not doing it correctly. And I think some of the shortfalls of the joint water sewer previously was that we weren't taking care of our equipment as much as we should have been. So changing that culturally into a group, or into an organization that is performance-based versus reactive-based is what we're trying to accomplish.
And anecdotally, I was talking with the maintenance supervisor down at the wastewater plant. When we first initiated this program, he said he was never going to be able to keep up with the PMs. We had given him too much work to do. I asked him about a month ago how he was doing, and he said, well, we're caught up with everything because stuff just stopped breaking. So now we're fixing to give him some more PMs to do since he's caught up.
We're getting little doses at a time. We're building up that tolerance. So hopefully we've got a bunch of, with the vertical hierarchy that we just had put in place, the PMs are exponentially larger than they were just because
Yep,
now we have a way to track that. We know what we're supposed to be doing. Now we have to move on to the scheduling portion of that so that these preventative measures are being done on time in the same period every year, every month, every week, depending on what it calls for.
I certainly don't think your experiences with this are unique. I think they're pretty common in utility.
Yes, sir, and I think
yeah.
asset management is kind of a buzz thing right now, and everybody's getting on that bandwagon because they're realizing how
Sure.
much it's helping.
Does this system actually generate work orders, or?
Yes.
Okay, it does.
So we've had the system for a while, but prior to probably the past 2 years, it was more of just a digital logbook than it was an actual asset management or work order management system.
Right.
So the further we get along with this, when PMs are done, we can make them reoccur at any interval that they're supposed to reoccur. So once you get them done, or even when you tell them to be done, you can program it in a way that it'll shoot out reminders when it's time for that.
The one nice thing is, once the setup's done and you get all your assets in, then it becomes, the flow is much easier.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
You're in the tough stage here with this. So.
Yes, sir. Implementing the program is a whole lot of work. I've
Absolutely.
had a lot of great help from everybody. It's taken a village. It really has. But we're making substantial gains on this, even with COVID and everything. We fell behind schedule just a little bit, but we're getting back up to where we were planning on being.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to point out was last time brought up that we were creating storerooms for all the different divisions. We have successfully put together a water distribution warehouse. So now we'll be able to take a look at inventory there. We're also rolling it out to where trucks have a standard list, or crews have a standard list of equipment and inventory that they'll have on their vehicles. So when they're out in the field, they can use that inventory, and if they need to restock, they go back into the storeroom signed out by one of our storeroom personnel. This rolling stock is going to let us we're going to see what's being used, when it's being used, how it's being used. And we're hoping that's going to turn into being able to cut down on over-purchasing of inventory and things like that. So
We're also, water distribution is going to set all their trucks up the exact same way so that whichever truck happens to be at the job site, everybody knows where it's at on the truck. Because if you've ever been out to a job site with somebody else's truck, you end up opening every toolbox on there trying to find what you're looking for.
yeah, kind of took a page out of my firefighting days. Everything was the same on every truck because you didn't know if you're going to be on engine 1 or engine 2 or engine 4. We kind of want that to be the same thing here. Everybody can, if somebody's down a crew member and they need to borrow one from one of the other trucks, then they'll be able to come and operate as efficiently as they would on their own vehicle. So that's hopefully what's going to happen. I feel pretty confident that water distribution, those guys over there will be able to handle that really well. So Ms. Crosby over in procurement and her team did a wonderful job putting this storeroom together. The wastewater treatment inventory, we've had some issues with just because we didn't take, this is before we had anything in place of how to actually log this stuff. And I think we attacked it in a better way this time, and it seems like it's going to be a smoother transition. We should have that up and running on Monday. So in tasks that we have for the next quarter, we recently compiled all of the information on our water main break data. So we're going to get that into GIS, and once we get that into the system, we can move that over to our asset management system, and we can start looking at problematic areas. And this will be just a really good opportunity for us to see, where things are happening, if we're having any trouble spots, if we need to kind of shift our focus. So that'll be done within the next quarter. We're going to get full implementation of our mobile application in. Because of COVID and some other things, that got pushed to the back burner a little bit. Since our GIS system runs through the county, it's a little different than most people are used to, and our vendor that we were using to set up that process ran into a few issues, but we're going to continue on with that and hopefully have that in the hands of all the operations personnel by the end of this quarter. And we're also going to implement training for the mobile application for all operations individuals, because that's been a big part of why the CityWorks program wasn't working as well as it should have been, is just lack of training. CityWorks unfortunately doesn't have a very good training background. They don't provide it in a way that we need it or our organization needs it. So that's kind of become part of the asset management position, is that developing a training program for using the program so that it gets used correctly. The more accurate data we have put in, the better data we get out at the other end. So. Yeah, I think that's all the major points that I had. I am up for any questions you guys have or any concerns possibly.
No concerns. A few comments. First of all, congratulations for turning the corner.
Thank you, sir.
Directionally, this is outstanding progress, and it will pay dividends more as we move closer to that balance, whatever we choose, like 80% planned and 20% reactive, for example.
Yes, sir.
That's really an optimum for a utility once we get there. And I think that'll show us how well we utilize our resources, both human and the mechanical. One thing I would encourage you to look at too, the charts that you're showing is good directionally. I like what I'm seeing. And this is work orders account. So think of also how you might slice and dice the data as dollars and man hours.
Mm-hmm. That's actually something where I've been working with Stephen, who is one of our IT guys. He's the enterprise manager. We're working right now on creating reports so that we can look at cost per work order, cost per department, cost per individual. So we're seeing time cost analysis of what we're doing out in the field. It may not be as pretty as the pie charts, but that is something that we're working towards right now. That will be done by next quarter as well.
Sure. And what I was meaning about the hours, so you could have numerous small work orders and not have a lot of man hours. And so it just shows one facet of the asset management. And if you look at the dollars of work planned, excuse me, and then also the number of man hours planned, versus the reactive, I think those three facets together will help the whole team understand the value of it.
Yes, sir.
So again, all I have for you is kudos. It's great work, good report, and look forward to seeing the additional progress you'll be making at the next quarterly report.
Thank you, sir.
I have just one question. Do you dream about it at night?
I try to shut down as soon as possible.
Okay.
I do wake up in cold sweats sometimes when I write something down so I can put it in the computer the next day.
That's database management for you.
Yep.
I ask him enough questions during the day, he doesn't want to think about it
I
at the end of
guess
the day.
Ellis, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
You said all of the assets had been graded.
As far as, so major assets were done last quarter. We had all our major assets done. But going into, as far as the pipe sections, they're graded off of the consequence of failure. They may not necessarily have a probability of failure score yet, which is a NASCO score. And that's all, we get all those scores from our line cleaning crews and the CCTV crews when they go through and do that work. So 50% is 100%, the consequence of failure side. And then, like I said, we're probably about, probably got 30% solid on CCTV, from our recent project, and then some from the past, filled out for that. So everything should have a score,
So everything does have a score right now.
for the most part, yes, sir. I'm sure there's something that's squeaked by that we'll find while we're coming through data, but
Is that on a form that we could have a copy of that to see the scores?
We could get you a copy. We'll have to pare it down into something a little more
Right.
digestible. It's quite a lot of numbers right now. We can get you a summary.
I'll put together a summary. Basically, the way it's housed right now is just an Excel sheet. So you've got,
Right.
like those numbers I said, you're going to have 8,000 gravity mains. That will have a score.
A suggestion for you on that is you may want to just look at type of asset and what's the average, and then what's the min and the max.
Okay.
And that'll kind of tend to help focus on the scope of the risk for a particular asset class.
How are you going to integrate what you're doing with the revise of our master plan?
So the goal was to have as much of that work done as possible. So when we went to the master plan, they could review it, and they're going to have a third party, or they're going to be the third party that's going to review the grades that I've done. And if they see something, a major issue with the way that we've done it, they're going to be the ones that are going to encourage us to look at a different aspect and maybe edit our scores based on that. But this is going to go into the master plan for priority listings on pump stations. And
You use the term probability and consequence of failure. If you multiply those two numbers together, you get something called total business risk. And you use those risk scores to prioritize projects. So if they look across the spectrum, there's 20 projects that they're determining which order they need to be done in, they can rank them by the risk
Okay.
associated with that. So that gives you the priorities where you're spending today's dollars on the ones that are most needy, instead of just what happens to be convenient.
I look forward to seeing that if it gets done before
Yeah.
January.
I'm more than happy. I'll send you all the spreadsheets. And
We can,
There you go.
we can show you a very nice graph that's got 5 different colors on it and what management zone it's in. It's
Hope you
you
have
can
a
really
big
nerd
screen.
out on that.
possibilities are endless. It's just how far we want to go into it.
Right.
In terms of,
That's a real good report.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next item on the agenda is a water pollution control plant flows report. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. Got some great news to report here at Academy Creek. Our flows were significantly lower than they had been in the past. Now, it wasn't a extremely rainy month, but it was rainier than some of the previous months have been. But if you look at the effluent flow totals at 6 MGD, the work we've been doing in the SPLOS Phase 2 with the lining project and the manhole rehab and some of the work that we've got corrected from the smoke testing project, you're already starting to see less flows at the plant as a result of that. Now, conversely, when you have less flow coming in, your concentrations coming in increase because you don't have the dilution water to decrease your numbers there. So you see a little bit of an increase on BOD and TSS coming into the plant, but leaving the plant, you're still getting very consistent results there. I do want to point out the ammonia, the NH3 column. There's a 5 down there. If you look at what the average has been for the last 2 years, it's 10.9, and we've got that down to 5. And as of 15 minutes ago when I checked, we're down at 4 so far for the month of June. So we're making tremendous improvements on our ammonia removal there at the plant. We got a new permit that gives us 3 years to reach the new number, which is actually 1 part per million. But we've made tremendous strides in the last 3 months working that down. So the staff at Academy Creek is doing a great job there. Still got very good removal. In fact, because if influent concentrations were higher, you actually see a higher % removal at Academy Creek because the effluent stayed consistent. Do see some consistency there in the sludge as well. We spoke about this at our town hall meetings, but we're seeing great dividends from our sludge hauling program as well. So great job by the folks at Academy Creek. If you look at the graph on the back, we're tracking almost exactly where we were last year. It's a little bit lower, but almost on top of each other for the last year. So we have seen an increase in customer base going to the Academy Creek, and if the flow's not going up and the customer base is, you're getting water out of the system that's not supposed to be there. So, all right, moving over to Dunbar Creek. As always, we have great numbers at Dunbar. Flow average is, again, right at 3 million. We are currently going through the Sea Palms lining project on the island. So whenever they finish that up this month, I'll be interested to see what the flow numbers look like in July and August once we get those areas dried up a bit more. But we have great results out the other end, 99% removal of both BOD and TSS at that station, at that plant. So that plant is being operated very well. And then down at Southport, we were able to find a couple of issues down at Southport we corrected, so you did see the flow drop back down a little bit. I do wish we had a little more flow there, just not rainfall flow. However, we're getting very good removal there as well. 96% of BOD and 97% of TSS being removed down there at that facility. You know, if you recall, last month I said we didn't take any sludge to the landfill from Southport. Well, we caught up this month by doubling it. So, but it averages out the same way. So we're staying on track there as well. But certainly this wastewater treatment plant staff has made great strides. They're working diligently to meet the new permit at Academy Creek, and I'm confident that we'll be able to get there, specifically once we finish the plant project and be able to get some of those rags and stuff that's clogging up the system taken out with the new screens.
Quick question, Andrew, with regard to the sludge hauling, have we done it enough now that we have a average that we're doing daily or every other day or week? What's our frequency? We're hauling at least a load a day from one of the plants. Typically, we haul about 5 loads a week from Academy Creek. And we're hauling about 2 loads a week from Dunbar and a load every 7 to 10 days from Southport. But our monthly bills have went from $50,000 a month to $15,000 a month by doing that. And so we haven't necessarily changed the way we're processing solids that much. It's just the difference in us hauling it ourselves. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
At Dunbar and St. Simons, have we completed everything that the smoke testing shown there?
90, well, we don't have all the manholes done. We've got them added to next year's manhole rehab list, but other than the manholes, we should be 99% done with what we found over there.
How many households did we have that needed to correct?
The vast majority of the households that needed correcting were clean-out caps, so we just went out and put them on ourselves. We can buy them in bulk and get a pretty good rate there, so we just went and screwed one on ourselves. So not as many out there because the overwhelming majority of them were just clean-out caps that were off.
Now, the tons, is that dried tons?
That's dry tons, yes, sir.
But Dunbar and Southport, they delivered with, what, 20% solids?
18 to 20%. So you've really got 5 times that much tonnage going to the landfill, but dry solids. At Academy Creek with the dryer, you're running 98% solids leaving that facility. So you're not paying to haul a lot of water that way. The goal is 95 with that machine, but we tend to get a little better than that.
Have we heard anything about the landfill not accepting wet sludge? There are concerns. Camden County's landfill is a little smaller, and certainly they get their ratios out of whack. They can only have so much wet material. So certainly they've requested we dry as much of it as we can. Right now, we are the largest solids customer that's bringing to them, so they're not having any problems. But if they get some more larger sludge haulers to there, they may request us to stop bringing as much of the wet material. But right now, we're good there. I know statewide it's becoming a major issue. Landfills not wanting to take 15 to 20% solid in their landfills because it just eats up their numbers a lot. So that was a major point of discussion on a GAWP call we had earlier this week. In the metro Atlanta area, it's becoming a major issue with the amount of tonnage they have to take out.
What is the alternative?
Putting in dryers, composting it, land application if you can find somebody that can take all that sludge for crops and stuff. But if you're Gwinnett County and you're producing thousands of tons of sludge, kind of hard to find farms that'll take all that for you.
Well, for a while, we wrestled with doing that here, and then we never really could find a site.
It depends on what you're growing. If you're growing something like corn that's very nutrient dense, you can apply more because it's going to use more of the nutrients out of the soil when you're applying it. If you're growing pine trees, you can't put a whole lot on there because it just doesn't, the uptake rate's not as high as what it would be with corn. So it depends on what kind of material you're trying to grow on the property.
On the Academy Creek expansion, we have it set up so we could haul and dump it at the Academy Creek and use that dryer too.
We are having an alternate item on there for a live bottom bin, depending on what the prices come back, so that we can take the wet material from Dunbar and Southport and dispose of it there through the dryer. Certainly, the design is done, so if we don't decide to do it as part of this project, we could always come back later and add that one unit in there. So, actually, the dryer would be operated more efficiently that way, so you would consistently fill it. The way that dryer's set to operate, there's a total weight that goes in the dryer, and there's a sensor, and with the feed valve, as water leaves, it allows more sludge to get in, so you end up with full sludge in there and no water, so you don't have to start and stop the dryer as much. Right now, we're not able to do that at Academy Creek. We may not be able to do it still with Dunbar and Southport sludge, but we'd be a lot closer to that. The idea there would be to run that continuously and until you've got everything processed for the week instead of starting and stopping.
Any other questions on this?
None for me.
Next item is the project report. First, Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh.
We'll let you start this week.
Oh, thank you. Be my honor. Thank you, Commissioners. Project report. I'll just run through. Any particular questions, please shout out. I'm glad to pause on a project and talk more about it. State Route 99. We're just waiting on that final revised invoice to come from the contractor. The project is complete, and end of a long journey on that one. The Ridgewood Water Production Facility, moving along, still ahead of schedule. The tank is complete for the most part, the structural part of it. Painting is proceeding. All the site demo of the previous infrastructure is done, and the on-site infrastructure pipe work and whatnot is in progress. So.
Can you tell us what the completion date is on all of these projects you're talking about?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So Ridgewood facility, we're looking at if on the back side, and this is what I'm going to use my cheat sheet here too, because
Okay.
some of them I will know offhand, but some of them I'll have to look. At the very end, at the very bottom, you'll see this last section, lines 41 through 62 will be the construction. And so you can look at a completion date there as well. So schedule finish, we're looking for Ridgewood is going to be Sunday, 12/13/2020, so this December. We're looking at finishing, that's the official completion date. All right, North Mainland, sewer improvements, 3-part project, gravity sewer rehab is in progress. We're working with our contractor to complete that. That's the sewer rehab going on down Whitlock Street in the county city border area there. There is a section of the manhole rehabs, or a large portion of the manhole rehabs that is, they're bringing their contractor back in to complete. Staying on top of those folks as best as we can.
When are they supposed to complete that now?
That project was supposed to wrap up back
That was
beginning of
supposed
this
to be
year.
wrapped up at the end of February.
Yes, and that project is currently under liquidated damages, so $1,000 a day.
Updated schedule was mid-July, right?
In July, per our conference call with them on
Yesterday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Have we notified the contractor?
Every, yes, sir.
They get a letter every month.
Every month, they get a notice letter sent directly to them, reminding them of the situation. They're doing their best. They've had some company changes and internal issues and whatnot that they're working through, but they've committed to finishing that project as soon as possible. We worked with our engineer of record on that one. We got a really good plan set up and direction for them for the testing, for all that, you know, everything that needs to happen to bring that project to a close.
Is it possible for them to complete the work by mid-July, given their current progress?
Given their current progress, no, sir, but if they mobilize when they say they're going to mobilize back down here and actually don't run into major issues, it can be finished by the end of July, yes, sir.
This is a sub, right?
The sub, right. That's a manhole rehab firm out of Tennessee. So if they're supposed to be back in town Monday to start finishing manholes. If they're able to get here Monday and can consistently work, they can finish by mid-July, yes, sir.
Are they working other projects?
I suspect that they are, but we do not know for sure.
Same company is working in Sea Palms right now doing this,
The lining contractor is the one working in Sea Palms.
and that's the main contractor.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sea
IPR.
Palms as well as Altama, so, which we'll talk about those projects here as well. The 4035, 4036 upgrades, of course, the revision of the design is in progress, as well as the force main extension. So, the surveyor completed the last remaining little bit of survey, or excuse me, the engineer of record completed the last little bit of survey required for the reroute down to Ogden that we talked about last meeting. And they did present that to us on Tuesday, and they're working on a redesign of that gravity extension as well. So design is in progress of that. Lift Station 4003, just discussed that project earlier in the agenda today with the recommendation for award there, moving forward. Canal Road to Glencoe 12-inch water main loop survey is complete on that project. We are beginning with the in-house design for that water extension, and that'll be even performed with construction in-house. So I would expect probably October for, we're hoping for, that's what we got at least projected out for construction to complete that.
That's
one.
just the section down Glencoe. If you recall at the last meeting, the section down Canal is being bid out as part of the same project as the SPOS project, but will be paid for, that section will be paid for out of this project fund here. So that section down Canal will be installed by the contractor that's putting in the force main.
Correct, right. The section on Canal will be, exactly. So, FEMA hazard mitigation, should we do the dance where I'll let you, handle those ones?
I'll hit that one when you come
Okay,
back. Yeah.
fantastic. Magnolia water improvement, so we've had some internal discussion with that. Currently, we have an MOU with the city of Brunswick to facilitate the water installation within that subdivision. And it's currently in discussions. I believe my colleagues at the city have reported they're ready to move forward with awarding that project. And so we're just finalizing discussions, joint waters position on that if we want to move forward with that. So, L Street improvements. So we got some good progress to report on there. We did meet out for the biweekly construction progress meeting on Tuesday. City engineer said that they expect there's some striping and a little bit of things left for their roadway improvement portion of phase 1. That's from Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to Goodyear. And they expect possibly next week or by the end of next week for that phase 1 to be open to traffic. So in the meantime, phase 2 from Goodyear down towards Pinova, Pinova's entrance, is the water section. The waters are being installed as we speak. So at least joint waters portion of that project is in motion and going very well.
And when do we anticipate the water to be finished?
If they maintain their current trajectory, I don't see why that couldn't be completed within 3 months, I would expect. We have continued to request an updated schedule from the city's contractor, and we're told we'll be receiving one shortly. So with each payment the city comes to us to reimburse them for the waterline portions, that is a request or requirement of us to release payment is an updated schedule. So the contractor is aware that payment is held pending an updated schedule. So, but I would project probably 3 months. There's no reason they couldn't complete the water line portion. Now the city's portion with the roadway and the drainage, I'll wait to hear something back from them on that. I wouldn't venture a guess.
But when that's complete, we'd be through Bell Street.
When the water line, we're hoping, and we're really, we have requested, continue to request, if we can allow the contractor or the contractor sub to move on through with all the water line and get it all done, and then we can essentially be out of the way on the project, joint water, and encourage or cheer the city on from the sidelines at that point to complete the project. All right. Academy Creek, I'm gonna skip that one there. Stay Route 99, or Stay Route 27 resurfacing, project's complete. I believe the punch list items and last few remaining items were completed as well. That will fall off the list for the next report. 4021, we do have a set of redesign drawings. As recent as today, we had some more discussions on there. I believe we're gonna tweak those a little bit more. We're just trying real hard to have the most efficient design and most cost-effective design. Reutilizing existing panels even that we have in-house. So we're hoping to have final designs completed on that in the next week. Water Pollution Rehab Academy in Dunbar, I'll let Mr. Burris talk that one. 4105 and 107, basin expansion, force main reroute. The engineer of record has completed the survey, and they have submitted 107 plans to us. We've kicked back the first revisions, and then the same on 105. They're still working through the railroad permitting issues that it'll take to make that extension. They do have the CCTV video under review for the basin out around exit 36, and we are waiting for their report on that. Altama Avenue CIPP and CPALM CIPP. So CPALM's is in progress as far as the lining work right now. We're working with the same contractor, IPR, or Inland Pipe Rehab, to facilitate getting that done. The intent with that project is Glynn County's going to come through and pave a couple major roads in CPALM's in the month of July. And so our all intentions is for our lining work to be out of the way completely for the county to do that work. They are working diligently to complete that. On the Altama section, their CIPP, yes, sir.
On the CPOMS project, the relining work, have we had any feedback from the local folks there about road closings or anything?
Good question, Commissioner. We have met routinely with the HOA representatives out there, and I believe Jason, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, had even met with the Golf Villas group out there, doing our best to keep them informed on what's going on. I think they're being very accommodating, at least the input that we're getting back from them. You know, we have had to tighten our contractor up on traffic control a few times, make sure that everybody's safe driving through around the job sites. But so far, nothing critical regarding the project. Questions, of course, on timeline, when everybody can be done, and we're doing our best to keep folks informed on that. They have had some equipment issues, some personnel, you know, on their end issues, unfortunately out of our control, but we're doing everything we can to help them along with that project.
Are they relining all the sewer lines?
Not all, it's just the ones that scored.
4 or 5.
Correct. As Mr. Zettler touched on, yeah, the 4s and 5s as we scored those. So selectively went about doing that.
So if you look at the map of what we're lining, there'll be one section, and then there'll be 2 sections that aren't being lined, and then there'll be another section that's being lined, because those are the ones that were in immediate need of attention. The other ones, you know, in 5 years, we may have to come back and line them, but there weren't an immediate need to inhibit the paving.
Also, since we're speaking on CPALMs out there, in tandem with that we're in tandem with the county's project to come in and pave in the month of July, the waterline rehab project that we have planned out there. Water distribution is making a great effort to go out there and go ahead and get waterline crossings in on those major roads, and they're doing that right now. They started Tuesday. We did put out the PSA, or the public announcement, working in hand with the county very closely. Get those casings under the roads and in place so that when they come back through they won't be disturbing the new roadways. So future water line rehab, major rehab within Sea Palms, right now the casings are going, so we don't have to tear up the roads once they're repaved. But that is an in-house effort. Coastal Club, so we spoke about Coastal Club. I believe as was mentioned before, contractors out installing a force main right now for that project 1 of 3 projects. And we're waiting for shop drawing submittals on the pumps and whatnot for the station rehab at 56, pump station 56. The roof repair, punch list items are still outstanding on there. Update I got from the system pumping folks this morning. So the project essentially complete, still withholding, according to Kirk, Mr. Young, still holding some money on that project. Just waiting, they're trying to coordinate for their manufacturers reps and whatnot to get back on site and do their warranty walkthroughs and whatnot. Bergen Woods, off-site force main improvements. That project is tied to an on-site apartment complex development. They're working through some internal issues as far as their development goes with their neighbors to the north of the safety complex. My understanding from the engineer record is they're almost through those hurdles, and we should see for the off-site and the force main improvements that we're engaged with the developer on is a comprehensive agreement. All the hurdles are jumped, EPD approval, everything, we're ready to go. We're just ready to bid that project out. Demery East Beach Roundabout, great progress on that one. The county has a lofty goal. They fully intend to have the roadway passable before July 4th at least, down East Beach Causeway in Demery. And last Sunday, we've worked with the county real closely for a tie-in into the existing force main that's underneath the East Beach Causeway, so that they go ahead and get the contractor to go ahead and get out from under the roadway and make the future tie-in outside of the road. So.
And they did the water tie-in too, right?
Water tie-in happened as well. You may have seen a boil water advisory for that area. Went off very well. Samples came back great, just as they should. Project's going very well. Good contractors, being managed very well by Glynn County. Sea Palms East, we spoke about that. That is the road crossings that we're putting in right now. Oak Grove Force Main, nothing new to report on that one. That is a comprehensive agreement to extend force main from a development on Oak Grove Island to one joint water and pump station down closer to 341. Arco area water and sewer extension. So we did receive bids back in on the design of that, and bids are under evaluation by the evaluation team.
Received 8 proposals, which is a large number of proposals for us on an engineering project, but we did get 8 of them. We'll have a recommendation for you at the July facilities meeting.
Great response on that.
We got some people that this is the first time they've submitted a proposal to us, so that's encouraging to see people wanting to work with us.
Good.
Master plan update. So we're, I believe, ready to move forward with that one, contract and whatnot. We got a meeting tomorrow to discuss that.
Kickoff meeting, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. So we're very excited about that project there. Then Tillman water line replacement, another in-house effort by water distribution to get that water main connected to the new L Street segment down to the water tank in that same area. So in-house effort there. And I will hand it off to Mr. Burrows unless there's any other questions.
All right, we still don't have any word on our generator project from FEMA on that grant. However, we did hear back from them, and we've got the go forth on the transfer switches. We've gotten a little behind on the transfer switch project, so we are prioritizing that to get out in the very near future so that we can get that moving forward. We had to turn in our first progress report on that project, so they requested we move forward. The Academy Creek Oxygen project is complete. It actually was complete June 1st, but this is through May 31st, so unfortunately the timing didn't work out real well for me there. But that one is done, so that one will fall off the list next month. Water pollution control rehab at Academy Creek, we have a 100% design completion. We have a bid package prepared, and we are advertising for pre-qualification of contractors tomorrow. So they'll pre-qual for 30 days, and then team of 2 members from our consultant and 2 members from here will pre-qualify those contractors, and then those contractors that are pre-qualified will be given 30 days to give us a proposal for completing the work. So estimated bid opening date on the final work now is September 1st, but we do have completed plans if any of y'all would like to see them.
On that, we have $10 million set up from GFA funds and $5 million for sewer rehab.
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna need all the $5 million for sewer rehab?
We could spend $5 million for sewer rehab. I feel comfortable we're gonna do all the base bid stuff at the plant for $10 million. There's some of those adders like the live bottom bin that likely won't be able to include in that $10 million. But we might, in say, a $12 million allotment for the plant, we might can get a lot of those alternatives in there as well. So we'll see what the bids come back once they get here.
What's the date of the bids?
September 1st. All right, moving on down to some of the other projects. Brockington is done. We're just waiting on invoicing on that down there. And then 4118, 4119 upgrade project, that's an in-house project we're doing. We have received the pumps, the rails, the bases, and the interior piping. And we have ordered panels, which are going to be picked up this week. And the only thing we're waiting on there before we start installing is Georgia Power to relocate their incoming line to that station, those 2 stations. So that'll be completed in-house. The goal would be to have it done in the next couple of months. Of course, that will depend on what workload we end up with. And then I have a spreadsheet here that I forgot to print out that has the earned value analysis that we are going to start doing. So bear with me to open this up. Me and Todd worked through this and then forgot to print the thing out. For those of you that are familiar with earned value analysis, you do steps through the process and it gives you a dollar value on how you're doing compared to schedule, how you're doing compared to cost as originally budgeted. And at the end, you can get some indexes of how you're doing cost, how you're doing on schedule, and also the final value you get is called a 2 complete performance index. That is a ratio of how much additional effort should be placed on a project to have it completed on schedule and on budget. There are different weightings you can do to that last calculation. We have weighted ours closer to budget because that is more of a driver for us in most projects. But interesting, well, I won't say interesting. A new way of looking at the numbers for sure. All right. Okay, so one thing of note here, you cannot do these calculations if there has been no money spent because the divisor is 0. So any project that does not have money spent on it is not on this list. All right, so there's a lot of acronyms on here. So BAC is budget at completion. Essentially, this is the original budget from the project. PV is planned value based off the original schedule of the project, how much work should be completed, and that's a percentage from day 1 to day X at the end. So State Route 99 obviously should have been completed by now, so we had 100% of that value there. Ridgewood, as you see, that's planned on the schedule to be completed in December. So you can see we're about 40% of the planned value on Ridgewood. EV is earned value. That's how much work has been completed. That doesn't mean it's been invoiced. That means it has been completed. So you see down here on Ridgewood, we are ahead of where the planned value would have us be on earned value. Actual cost is the actual amount of money spent. So that for our purposes, that's the actual amount we have been invoiced. So typically this is going to be a little less than earned value because typically contractors are 30 days behind on billing. So SV is called schedule variance, and the schedule variance is the earned value minus the planned value. So a positive number means you're ahead of schedule. A negative number means you are behind schedule. And when we print this out next month, there's all these nice little describers down here, so you don't have to remember all this. So CV is the cost variance, and the cost variance is, I'm trying to remember all the, earned value minus actual cost. So if you've earned more than you've actually paid, that is good. So a positive number indicates that you're doing well on your cost. A negative number, you're behind. ETC is estimate to complete. There is a calculation you can do there unless in the project manager's judgment, you know more information about what needs to be complete than what the calculation says, and you can put a number in there. Say, for example, if you know there's only the retainage left on the project, you would put that exact number in there. EAC is estimate at completion, which is actual cost plus the estimate to complete. And then VAC is variance at completion, and that is the amount that is left from your original budget at completion. So per the usual on variance at completion, positive means you're under budget, negative means you're over budget. So here's these indexes here. SPI is Schedule Performance Index, and if we go over here, that is the earned value divided by the planned value. So over here, greater than 1.0 means you are ahead of schedule. Now, if you look at some of these numbers, they do not look the greatest on us being ahead of schedule. So there's a few, say Ridgewood here, that is 14% ahead of schedule. There's also some that are well behind schedule. And then anything that's completed is on schedule because it's been completed. So if you look at some of these numbers, and I'm not going to go through all of them, for next month we'll have this printed out for you.
What's the total index for that?
60.61 for the total group. So that would indicate that we're 39% behind schedule, but I got good news coming up in just a second. So our CPI is our cost.
Depends on when you nail down your finish date and your start date.
That's true. We can always shift those and make those look real good, but we use
The idea is to nail them down before you kick the project off.
and that's what we used was the original start and finish date. So the one for State Route 99 was 2017. But we did finish it.
99 was 2012.
I mean, you always expect some variances.
Right.
Gee whiz, it's construction work.
You're going to run into stuff.
The important part is, while we'll use this to drive performance, and we can put a number on it instead of paragraph
Right.
of words, we know what variances are valid. Highway 99 is an example. We had to work through some difficult issues, and okay, we got it done. But some other ones that are maybe less complicated, you'd expect those to have a high indices, in the 0.9 range or
Right.
1.0.
Right. Now, CPI is not the Consumer Price Index, it's the Cost Performance Index, and that is the earned value over the actual cost. So greater than 1 means you're ahead of schedule on cost, which essentially means there's more work done. There's more value earned from the work completed than what you have paid out. And then TCPI is the Total Cost Performance Index, which is budget minus earned over budget minus actual. So greater than 1 would indicate that,
Somebody paid us to do the work.
yes. So greater than 1 would indicate that more effort is required on the project to finish it up than what has currently been applied. Less than 1 would indicate that you theoretically could put less effort in the project and still finish it on time. Don't think we ever want to put less effort into a project though. But down here, you'll see some of these are coming in. So overall, these are some, the summary at the bottom, 6.61 for schedule, 1.02 for cost. So we're actually ahead of schedule on cost across the board. And our TCPI, 0.99, would indicate that we're driving things to budget. Again, we would like to see this schedule number be a little closer to 1 across the board. But certainly the final outcome with 0.99, that'll fluctuate a little bit. Some of this 0.99 is because of we've got some large dollar projects that are still in the engineering phase, so there's a lot of money hanging out there that hasn't been bid out yet. So keep that in mind. But this is something we'll provide you every month going forward, as in addition to your original project sheet there to look at.
Now, Andrew, question on this, when we set an early start date or a scheduled start date, Todd, are we including that the engineering is a part of the project life, or you're just measuring construction?
Depends on how we're budgeting it. For example, in this year's project plan, we have an engineering project to do engineering on ARCO. That will be separate from the construction project, so the only thing that will include is the engineering timeline.
So you would track it as a separate project?
Right. For
Okay.
ones that are budgeted, say the North Mainland project, SPOS project, that's all inclusive, that is budgeted engineering and construction on the same timeline. And then typically we add 30 days to the end of construction for record drawings.
Sure.
So, and on like the North Mainland projects, it's broken into phases. Each phase is done as a separate project and then summarized into one project at the end.
Good progress here. And it's good that the team is beginning to recognize all the descriptors, the anachronisms, et cetera, and what's important. But when you get way over to the right side of that spreadsheet, those are the numbers that really should be driving positive change for us as we transition from all reactive work, as we discussed on
Absolutely.
another activity,
Right.
to more planned, and we have a discipline to actually get decisions made to support execution timely.
Certainly on the schedule, one of the things that will benefit it going forward is spending more time in the project planning stage of hammering out a correct schedule rather than necessarily saying it's going to be done in 120 days and then not including bid time and anything like that. So we're going to have to plan more on the front end, which will help our overall project execution.
Yep, very good.
So this list will typically be shorter than the other list because if there's not been money spent, it doesn't. You get a lot of divide by zero errors on here.
That's nice.
All right, so only other thing I got, we have applied through the EDA for a grant for ARCO. We don't know if we're going to get it yet. Economic Development Grant, considering that the Knight Industrial Park is on the north end of that project. So we're supposed to find out in September. It's part of the CARES Act EDA funding. So we've been working closely with Ryan Moore down at the Economic Development, and we had a consultant that put in that application for us in record time. We had the application put together in a week and a half, so to make sure we hit the deadline. But we have applied for that. That will be a 80% grant if awarded with a 20% match. So fingers
Does-
crossed on that one.
Does our congressman's local staff, are they aware that we've made this application?
Yes, so we've reached out to, I'm sure you know Emmett Nolan.
Yeah.
We've reached out to Emmett, let him know.
Good.
We try to reach out to him anytime we have any sort of federal grant funding that we're applying for.
Thank you.
Good report. Any commissioners have any other comments or questions? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.